Thank you.
Dinner in Hell band, ladies and gentlemen.
Tight today.
Yeah, real tight. Playing great. Studio audience, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you. Welcome to the Dinner in Hell podcast, where two amateur historians dig around in the atrocious underbelly of history.
Who are you?
I'm Brad the Impaler. And who are you?
I'm Ron Maiden.
And we are those two amateur historians. Now, tonight, we're going to be talking about one individual person.
Someone you could classify as a serial killer.
Absolutely. And someone who, if the reports are to be believed, are the most prolific serial killer in all of history.
When you hear the story of this person we're about to discuss, you're going to feel anger. You're going to be challenged on your friggin' threshold of, can I take this dinner in hell doom and gloom? You're going to be challenged on this one. But listen, she gets it in the end. I'm just going to spoil it for you.
Yeah. And you may think because this person we're going to talk about is a woman that it won't be women on the short end of the stick. But alas, no. All of her victims were women.
This is one of those dinner in hell good news, bad news scenarios. Good news, ladies.
You're the star. You're the star of this.
Yeah. This one has the upper hand, if you want to say.
Mm-hmm. But
bad news.
If you weren't in charge, if you weren't the woman in charge, you're still dying.
So which woman from the past are we talking about, Brad?
Well, this week, we're going to be talking about the Blood Countess, the Tigress of Siste Castle, Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah. Cold bitch.
Yeah, so the Countess Elizabeth Bathory was born in 1560 or maybe 1561 in the Kingdom of Hungary. So the Eastern Europe bordering up against the Ottoman Empire, composed parts of Slovakia, Hungary, Austria, and, of course, Romania, because some of this takes place in Transylvania.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Hungary is named Hungary because it was controlled by the Huns?
Yeah.
Okay.
Either that or they were Hungary.
Okay. They were a very hungry nation. Nation of hungry people.
Apologies for any puns that I might use today, because I like puns. Lots of people hate puns. I like puns.
Dude, I was just using I was in the kitchen here at the studio, and someone left in the break table. Someone left a book. I saw a book on the break table that said how to deliver puns. Was it by chance yours?
Yeah, it probably would be. I love puns.
We've got tons of books here that we've used. Yeah.
So she was born into a very upper class scenario. She had an aristocratic upbringing. She was really up in the upper echelons. So she had the best of education. She had a top level social status, and she and her family were very rich.
So tell me about her love life. Let's get to it.
She got engaged at age 11.
Okay.
And married at 14 to Frederick Nadsady. He was also rich guy, aristocratic, but not quite as upper echelon as she was. So she kept her own name, and didn't her husband
later on take her name as well as his?
So
he hyphened it out.
Yeah, he hyphenated it out because she was sort of above him in terms of social class.
Just to put that 11-year-old engagement into perspective, if you're not a parent, if you're not familiar with 11-year-olds, they're in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So they're they're not even doing algebra, and they're getting engaged over there.
Yeah, unless my wife-to-be would have been really into playing, NHL 95 on Super Nintendo, it would have been a really tough relationship.
So she got married at 14.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say how much older he was?
I don't know.
Well, I'm sure it's older.
Probably.
11. Yeah. So, happy 11th birthday. You're engaged. Yeah. Not saying it was on her birthday, but geez. How weird.
Yeah, it's really odd.
Well, I wonder if it had to do with, physically, I'm not saying physically, but I wonder if it had to do with the life expectancy. Like, let's say the average lifespan is like 50 back then. You know what I mean? Because sickness and like death from being stabbed and beheaded. You know what I mean? From being in battle and being sieged and being life expectancy. 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds with gray beards. I mean, there's probably not too many unless you're like rich and protected, like royalty. Like there's probably old men royalty. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wonder if that's why I wonder if the engagement was sped up, not on a physical, basis. You know what I'm getting at? But just as like, let's get a fucking jump on things while we're still alive.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
The concept of a teenager is a pretty kind of modern thing. For most of history, you were a kid, and then you were suddenly immediately an adult somewhere around then, around 14 or 15. You went from just being a child straight to being an adult. There wasn't even really sort of an intermediary concept.
Imagine King Joffrey from Game of Thrones. We bring up Game of Thrones a lot, but a lot of people watch it, and it's a good reference. Mm-hmm. King Joffrey was a child king.
Yeah.
Like, he was a teenager. He would have been the guy marrying 11-year-old Bathory or engaging her.
Yeah. Well, so another interesting thing about her is her coat of arms is a dragon on a field of red with teeth. So that's some foreshadowing right there. She was bringing pain with her.
The field of red. What does the field of red? What does the red field represent, do you think?
I don't know what it's supposed to, but we'll just go ahead and say it represents blood.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a pool of blood. Like
that's kind of what it looks like.
A lake of blood.
Yeah, so after she was married for a little while, in 1575, her husband became the chief commander for the Hungarian army. So he's no slouch on his own either, I suppose. But that meant that he started spending most of his time away from home fighting against the Ottomans. So she was left kind of to rule while he was gone, and he had to take care of their barony and protect from counter raids by the Ottomans. So that was her responsibility, but it also gave her, evidently, way too much free time.
So while he's gone, she is the leader?
Yep, she's in charge.
What she says goes. So what these knights... When you hear what some of the things she was up to, you're going to hear, it's going to be like knights and men of service involved, like helping this process. Mm-hmm.
So really, she got started with her killing career around age 30, and she killed lots and lots of young women. Mm-hmm. She started with the daughters of the local peasantry. Yeah. She'd lure them to the castle. She'd say, "Hey, come on up here. I'll give you a good job. You'll make plenty of money. Don't worry about it." And then once she got them up there, they didn't last too long.
How'd you like to be one of Bathory's handmaidens? Sound good, huh?
Yeah.
Think about it.
It does. It would sound great if no other prospects, no way to make a living, and then all of a sudden someone offers you a job. Of course you're going to take it.
You go into town, you find a young girl, and you're like, "How would you like to have shoes? Let's talk shoes."
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't have to be barefoot? Yeah, you can get you out of that freaking whatever it is you're wearing.
Yeah, you get to come live in a castle
with a dress. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Come on, trust me. Plus, Bathory said so you kind of don't have a choice. Let's go.
Yeah, and on top of this lure job, she would also sometime just snap people right up. She'd have them abducted off the streets.
Just dudes cruising through on a horse?
Yeah. Just grab them, yank them, take them up to the castle.
Oh, shit. Yeah, like a freaking big-ass net. You just ride by and just go, whoop, snatch a kid up like, yeah, got another kid.
Yeah, so once she had them, she would keep them imprisoned in cells in the dungeon of primarily Sistich Castle. She'd keep them naked in the prison cells, and she would do all kinds of really bad stuff to them.
So here's the good dinner in hell bad news.
You knew it was coming. So some of the things that she would do is starve these young women to death. She'd put them out with no clothes on until they died from hypothermia.
Yeah.
And she would burn them.
Yeah, she'd poke at them. She'd chomp at them with biting them. Did you ever say that? They'd be biting them.
Yeah, she would bite the flesh off of their hands, breasts, and faces.
Poke them with needles, burn them with hot coins.
Hot coins and keys.
Yeah.
Ooh.
She's sweetheart.
Yeah, there's reports of her torturing her victims with needles.
Wasn't she named Time Magazine's first ever Person of the Year?
Yeah,
That was in the very first
1591.
She was on the first Person of the Year cover of Time.
Makes sense. Good company.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would mutilate the hands of the young women, just to physically destroy their hands.
All right, so tell me the
bite off fingers.
Now get to the bad shit. Yeah. And if you're still with us, we appreciate you.
Yeah, she'd also beat them severely. So another report that it may or may not be true. There are some reports that say the ultimate goal of this is that she would bathe in the blood of these young women in order to retain her youthful beauty.
Are you going to tell us how? Because it's so awful.
Oh, that's not a real thing. I looked back into it.
It was legend?
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I heard that she had like a metal grate over like her in a tub, like in a bathtub, and there was a metal grating above and then the floor above, and then they would like cut a victim. We'll just say it. Try to keep it light, and the blood would drain through the floor down into her on a tub. She'd bathe in it.
Seems like something she would have dug
to keep her youth.
Yeah. Oof.
So that's what horrible. I thought. That when I opened the show saying this is a terrible woman, I thought you were gonna say that. But now that that's not true, I'm like, okay. So tell me something. I'm just kidding. Like acting like she's not a bad person. Oh.
Yeah, I thought I read some of that somewhere before too, but maybe I just made that up, and that's pretty horrifying to think about myself.
No, she would bathe in their blood to keep her youthful appearance. That's the stories that's all the stuff I saw.
Yeah, I don't know if the great thing. I think I may have made that up. I hope not, but I think maybe
you're fantasizing that. Let's be honest.
I may have. Because I couldn't, when I started researching it for the show, I didn't see that shit anyway. I don't know where I got it.
You're having reoccurring dream. No, you don't have that dream, man.
Yeah, I thought everybody had that dream every night.
You don't bathe in virgin blood in a tub. I guess I'm weird then.
Yeah, I guess it's just me.
I must be quirky.
Well, another reason that she's kind of gone down in history is she might be the most prolific serial killer of all time, because there was reportedly a diary in which she kept a list of all of her victims, and that list totaled 650 people.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
What I mean by wow, I mean that must have been a huge fucking book. 600 people. Like, how big is she writing?
How much does she have any details?
How many people on a page? How big's this book? It's probably giant too.
It's probably like, knowing her, it's probably like bound in human flesh. Well, what eventually tripped her up is part of that reason. She killed so many people, she ran out of peasant girls.
Right.
And she started turning on other aristocrats. So since she was way up there in terms of the aristocracy, the other aristocrats would send her their kids to learn how to behave at court and their etiquette.
Right.
And they started disappearing at kind of an alarming rate, and finally sort of people got tipped off to what was going on. It was a Lutheran preacher who actually initiated an investigation into her. After the investigation into her sort of started, they had a trial, and there were 300 witnesses against her at the trial. Her And she was also tried with 4 accomplices.
The accomplices were her servants.
Yes. 3 of them were female, and 1 of them was male. Semtes, Joe, and Benica were the female accomplices, and Fico was the male accomplices.
Semta, Joe, and Fica.
Mm-hmm.
Bonica?
Benica.
And then who was the male?
Fico.
So what happened to Fico? Wait.
All of them were found guilty after the testimony of the witnesses.
So tell me how Fica, what was his out?
Well, Semtes, Joe, and Fico, those 3 all got the death penalty.
Right.
Fico was deemed less culpable. He was less involved than the other women were. Mm-hmm. So he got the mercy of being beheaded pretty quickly. He died pretty quickly.
Lucky him.
Yep.
That's what you want.
Benica, the 3rd female accomplice, was deemed to be sort of bullied and dominated by the other female accomplices. So she was given life in prison. She's the only one who got out of this alive. Semtes and Joe were burned at the stake. Mm. And before they were burned at the stake, for some reason, they had all of their fingers pulled off with hot pincers.
Pincers, dude. Pincers, like, whenever you see them pulling, like, hot pincers would just be like big-ass hedge clippers.
Big-ass, like, pliers that are red hot from being sitting in a fire.
Like, when you see, like, iron workers, like, pulling, like, the fucking, like, molting pieces of iron out of coals.
Yeah,
it's
big hot.
with those pincers.
Yeah, man, that would be.
And I was thinking, why did they use molten pincers? Is to cauterize it so the person doesn't bleed to death, so they still die.
Yeah, all of the pain, none of the dying.
We've covered burning at the stake, so here we have 2. You can go back.
Two more victims. If you go back to the previous episode, you can hear all about that process. The Countess herself, also, we've mentioned her briefly in a previous episode. Her ultimate fate was to be immured in her own castle.
Yep.
So she was bricked up in a set of rooms, just a little opening for food and ventilation, and she lasted 4 years in there before she was found dead.
Yeah.
She was originally buried in the chapel at the castle where most of the killings took place, but the villagers had such an uproar that they were going to move her body back up to the north of the kingdom in her sort of birth home where she was originally from. Mm-hmm. But nobody knows where her remains are today. They're not there. Kind of creepy.
I bet it was the parents of one of the girls from the village and shit.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to that cemetery. I know when the guards leave.
Yeah, they probably have sacrificed them and stuff plenty.
They're like, you distract the guards while I dig up this bitch's skeleton. Take it, and we'll just freaking smash it and be done with it, throw it in the sea.
Yeah, I hope so, because she was a real rotten human being. It got to be like top 5 worst ever.
Yeah, so she was immured.
Mm-hmm.
You can find our immurement episode a couple episodes back on SoundCloud or YouTube. You could check either one, or iTunes.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's called Walled In, was what we called it, yeah.
Yeah, so 650 victims. I mean, to put it in comparison, the most, generally the most credited, most prolific modern serial killer was Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Mm-hmm. And then people talk about how many people he killed, and it doesn't even come close. He was convicted of 48 separate murders, and he confessed to 71. They presume it's at least 90. And that's insane. It's unbelievable that he could kill that many people and get away with it. But if you go back to Countess Bathory, that's more than 6 times as many.
Yeah. In the history of serial killers, like in the United States and like the world, there's very few females.
Yeah, there's not many.
It's mostly male thing. It's mostly a white male thing.
And it seems like, and some people have noted that this is likely the inspiration for her behavior, is that she was motivated by sadistic pleasure. Now, that's a lot more common in male serial killers than it is in female serial killers. Female serial killers tend to kill for profit, or you get a lot of the angel of death type things in the medical profession, where you have medical professionals who they think they're putting people out of their misery or something like that. Those are much more common types of behavior for women. But the Countess was in no need of money, and her crimes didn't really seem to be that focused on the power aspect, like maybe the angel of death sort of inspiration is, like the power over life and death.
Yeah.
She just seemed to take pleasure in hurting people.
Yeah.
And man, that's scary.
When you take a bite out of a live person, and
Yeah.
like chunk it out, like take a chunk out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what if she had like freaking something wrong with her? Like, you know how people were, you know, they're like, dude, incest was common back then,
Especially amongst royalty.
so how come these people aren't like inbred and like a little bit goofy? Like, how do you know Bathory wasn't?
They probably are.
Yeah, she's probably wasn't like a conscious, like, as we got nicer, probably go inside. Brad likes to bring up the fact that over time the world has gotten nicer and easier and soft, you know, and like better.
Mm-hmm.
So as we've gotten nicer over time, I wonder if that coincides with the shunning of incest, and you know what I mean? Like, we stopped doing that so much, so now we're getting back to like not inbreeding, and we're like,
Yeah, it might
know what I
have.
mean?
It might have something to do with it.
like
I don't know how common inbreeding was outside of the royalty, but it definitely was inside. And with them calling all the shots as absolute rulers, all of their ideology will wash down to the underclasses. But the sadistic pleasure is something you generally see male serial killers get up to. But
yeah.
she definitely seemed to be motivated by that.
No, wait. Are we talking serial killers? Sorry.
What would it be like if Clarice Starling was heading the investigation of Elizabeth Bathory? It's like,
Excuse me. Can I just have a minute of your time, please? Just for a few questions. I'd like to interview you. Perhaps you'd like to take a look in that mirror, Dr. Lecter, and take a look at... Put that mirror on yourself. See what you see. Clever girl, Clarice.
Yeah, him like helping to investigate. She'll be an aristocrat. Look for a ruffled collar.
Tell me more, Dr. Lecter. What?
She powders her head and likes to chew.
Is she in royalty? She's in royalty. She's got to be someone in power, a person of power. Was that who she is, Dr. Lecter?
Of course, Clarice. Quid pro quo.
Dr. Lecter, we don't have time.
Tell me about the last time you went to a castle.
Dr. Lecter, there's simply no time.
With your good bag and your cheap shoes.
Dr. Lecter, I was in a castle just 2 days ago. I'm on an investigation, Dr. Lecter. I've been in castles every other day, Doctor. I mean, you gotta understand that. What kind of question is that?
Yeah, well, but I mean, those two probably could have fucking brought her down before she got the death toll in the mid 600s. She's just real rotten. She's a terrible person. I'm
glad she was immured, but I hope some of the people like that help clean up, like the brooms, you know, in the hallway that, you know, in the murement wall that they build to seal her in. I hope they take like a freaking roll, not a roll, but like a rag or something to kind of plug an air hole. Yeah. One less air hole, bitch. Yeah, it's my granddaughter, you fucking bitch. Another one comes by. This sponge It's for my niece. Squeak. Like, one less air hole, bitch. That'd be great. We gotta do Dinner in Hell, like, cartoons. It's kind of like Drunk History. Where...
Yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah. She had a baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe...
And the man was castrated that did her.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah, wasn't it sort of like an extramarital deal?
Yeah. He was castrated and then torn apart by dogs, remember?
Yeah, because I know she did have 4 natural children with her husband. And they all went on to kind of keep on trucking within the Hungarian aristocracy. But this one, the bastard, things didn't go too well for him, did they?
So we're talking, she gets married at age 14. Now, she's already had a baby by another person of, like, lower outside. You know this, right?
I didn't come across this in my reading.
And when the dad Steve found out, he had the man castrated and then torn apart by dogs.
Ooh, that sounds like a rough way to go out. So but again, we have a frame of reference from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. It's funny, like, we didn't start this show to be like Game of Thrones discussion show. We both watched the show, and there's so many things that they reference from history that we're bringing up. It's like,
history had it first, Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, like George R.R. Martin would probably freaking love our show. He'd probably be like, "You got Mirman wrong, man. You left out a detail." Like, he probably already knows all this shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the horse people. What are they fucking called? The Dothraki are clearly just the Mongolians.
That's what I was thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, they don't have a word for sorry.
I mean, the whole series was inspired by the War of the Roses, the Civil War in sort of England.
I know that.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff from Game of Thrones is from history, so it just makes a really convenient reference point because almost everybody's seen it.
Like the scene where they put the box on the kid's chest and they put a rat in it. And
yeah, that's a thing.
We'll probably do something about that. Dinner in Hell rat box party. Look forward to it.
Put that on your calendars, marked under future.
Yeah. So if you could put a rat box and heat it up and head of it, eat someone's chest to get answers.
Yeah, who would you subject to that?
Tweet us at. By the way, we have dinnerinhell.com.
Yeah, we do. I don't think anybody's ever been there.
Zero has ever.
I've been there like 4 times.
I think I've been there once. I don't know why. What am I going to go there for?
Yeah, there isn't really any reason to have it, I guess. But
so check it out, y'all.
What are you going to do?
Does it sound thrilling?
Yeah, but we're way more active on Twitter. So what do you think is the worst part about Elizabeth Bathory? If she was working today, how many do you think she'd get away with before she got caught? Because I don't think, with modern forensics, I don't think she'd have been getting up there. But rich folks still get away with a lot of bullshit in today's society, so you never know.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can tweet to us at dinnerinhellpod. You can email us at dinnerinhellpodcast@gmail.com. We are, in fact, it does exist, dinnerinhell.com. Needs some work, though. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. It helps us out a ton. Subscribe on YouTube. Oh, there's the Dinner in Hell band. Crushing it as always.
Man, I love that bass tone.
Oh, sick.
I don't know what kind of amps he uses with this. Sound awesome.
Studio audience was great tonight, as always. Thank you so much for coming. Take your keys to your complimentary free car on your way out the door.
Sir, are you holding a gun? Sir, do not fire that gun. Sir, Is everybody okay?
Okay, they got him. The security task force got him.
Everyone's cool? Weird. That was a weird situation. I've never had someone pull a gun out and start popping shots into the ceiling.
Yeah, but now he's dead, so everything's all right.
Thanks again, and thank you as always, Brad.
Thanks, Ron. Good night.
All right, Bathory. Bathory. John. John. Is that Sanitarium? Because it goes, ah. You know what I'm talking about? Master of Puppets. You don't know Metallica Battery?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm doing. But I think the end has like, and it's like, like sorrow, like pain.
Yeah, the pain of fucking being Metallica.